everybody, I'm Zenith Warrior Princess, and welcome back to the Disney Debate, where Kat Macberrie, Doug Macberrie, and myself discuss Disney films. And once again, this year we are doing our end-of-year summation lists of all the Disney films that have come out in the past year and rank them based on order of release, which ones we think are best, which ones we think you should skip. And so these are going to be the top 10-ish films this year. There were technically 19 films if you include the Fox ones. Since the Fox merger was very, very new, we decided that we wanted to kind of condense it a little bit more. So we have 13 films, including the Disney Plus stuff and the Marvel stuff and a few other things. But so we're going to go through based on release date and rank them and tell you how we feel about them. But before all of that, hello, Kat.
Happy New Year!
Happy New Year!
I am Kat Macberrie, and this is 2020. Yeah, Happy New Year, everyone. Hope your holidays were good. If your year sucked, I hope your next year is better. If your year was good, I hope it continues to be good this year. And man, I am so glad we are finally going to talk about these movies, because oh boy, do I have a lot to say.
It has certainly been an interesting year, but we're in a new decade. Here's hoping for something better, something more, just something better for everyone. We have some interesting films to talk about, but before we do that, Mr. Doug, how's it going?
I'm doing okay. What's this New Year stuff we were talking about? I thought we were celebrating Festivus.
That happened. That was last.
I got a lot of problems with you people, and you're gonna hear about it.
I was so drunk that night, I don't even remember what my grievances were.
All I know is that it's been a busy few months. I mean, this Christmas I went up to my parents' condo up in New Hampshire, and I was there for a week working on scripts and doing other stuff. So, I had to worry about that, and then I came back and I, had to pack for moving. Right now my apartment is completely in disarray. It's dysfunctional. And I'm getting ready to move over to Minnesota and, track down the Linkaras, the mystical Linkara, and say hi.
And freeze your ass off in the dead of winter. Only Zen would move to Minnesota in the middle of winter.
But yeah, a lot has been going on. There's a lot of change happening, but a lot of good. I mean, I have a lot of the in terms of stuff that I'm working on right now. I've been actually very, very motivated. I've been working on redoing a lot of the old videos that I had put out and just redoing them, re-recording them, and I have already about a year's worth of videos recorded, which is pretty damn good, and I have a lot more in the pipeline. I've been doing a lot of good work, and then a lot of stuff have been put up on the new channels. We just, as of right now, just finished putting up the first season of the DuckTales episodes on the new channel, so whew, only 300 more videos to go.
Almost there.
We're getting there, but so a lot is going on. It has been a year, but 2020 is going to be very good. With that being said, let us dive into what happened in 2019. These films.
Okay, first off, before we start any of this, spoilers! Spoilers, especially for the recent stuff that came out. So, all y'all shut up if you're complaining that we're talking about plot points, because we kind of need to explain our stance on certain things. Alright? Anywho, with that out of the way...
We only have so much time to talk about all these movies.
I'm aware of that, but I'm just saying for those who are, worried about spoilers or whatever, we will be discussing them all. So to start off, like I said, we're doing what we do every year. We're going in release order. So the first film that came out this year was a Marvel film, Captain Marvel, in fact. So where does she rank on all you guys' lists?
Well, in terms of my list, I actually have her at number 2. I am a huge fan of this film. I think this is a fantastic film. It was a fantastic start for the year, and I mean, I've watched this film over and over on my friend's house on Disney Plus, and I constantly love it. I love the atmosphere of it. I love the it is so what's the word? It's very 90s. It's very nostalgic for me, and I mean, I love the characters. I love what they did with Goose. I love Nick Fury in this. I think they did a fantastic job of putting her into the universe when, you know, they could have gone in any different direction with this, but the way they handled bringing her in and not having her be around for the entire Marvel Cinematic Universe up until this point was really well handled. Plus, Goose is awesome.
I have a Goose toy. He spits tentacles.
Goose is the best Avenger. Also, don't trust him; he'll scratch your eye.
That's still funny to me that that's the origin for Nick Fury's eye. It's so stupid, but it's so
I
great.
trusted you, Goose. I trusted you.
but it does fit in with his character because he says,
Ginger motherfucker!
What do people call you, Fury? Like, you know, he's one of those more talk than anything kind of people, and I like that for him. But yeah, I have this at number 2. I think it's great.
And you, Doog?
This was on my number 5. I definitely like this one. I dig the female empowerment. I know it's kind of forced, but it needed to be done, and I think Disney or Marvel handled it pretty well. I liked how they kind of took the Skrulls and twisted them a bit. It's like they're known enemies in the comics, but in this case, they're actually, you know, the good guy ish. I don't know, but point is they're actually allies in this. So that was kind of cool. Yeah, I definitely enjoyed the 90s vibe. Again, I know it was forced, but I love the 90s, so shut up.
I mean, we are 90s kids.
Mm-hmm.
Dude.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And as for me, I put Captain Marvel at number 4. I definitely did enjoy it for a lot of the reasons you said, Zen. I felt that, despite the fact that she came a little late in the game, she brought a lot to the table, added a lot more to the overall lore and story of, the Marvel Universe and everything, and there's a lot of potential there. However, to me, when I compare Captain Marvel as opposed to how I enjoy other past films, I find myself, I don't enjoy it as much. To me, it feels kind of like a Phase 1 movie, as opposed to, Phase 2, Phase 3, or whatever. Because look at some of the incredible Marvel films we've gotten, like Winter Soldier and Doctor Strange and other ones like that. And then you compare it to Captain Marvel, and it's not as grandiose, I guess, or not as impactful or surprising. There are obviously some surprises in it, but it didn't strike me as much, and I guess part of it is because they kind of, I guess in the way trying to make Captain Marvel, all badass and stuff, and having her, try to remain emotionless so that way she can prove herself, that kind of forms a disconnect. I get why they did it, but it just, I don't know, it just kind of a bit off-putting to me.
I think they did that also, though, because, she was in the Air Force, military, and, I mean, she definitely acted like a military person. And so, I mean, that might be off-putting to some people. What I personally saw in this was, it was very Phase 1, but it had fun with itself.
I don't
and
know.
out
I
of
had more fun watching Ant-Man than I did this. Because at least that one didn't take itself so seriously. Like, with this, like, they have fun, but it feels like it's all in a serious tone, and that's kind of what kills it a bit.
I mean, it really depends what you're looking for in your film. I like Ant-Man, but Ant-Man always felt small time,
But
and but yeah, you know what I mean though. This feels like there's a much bigger stake to the film. I don't know. I love Captain Marvel.
I mean, I will say the thing that I really did like, though, was the ending, like, where she faces off against the guy and you expect him to have this big showdown, and instead she just fucking blasts him and is like, I don't gotta prove anything to you. I'm like, wow, I like that. That's refreshing. Go girl.
I
Like,
like
that I
her-
will definitely give the movie props for.
I like her take charge attitude because Nick Fury, he comes in, he's like, "Oh, I know everything that's going on." She's like, "You don't know what you're dealing with," and she's pretty much take charge because she's been to many different planets. She knows what she's dealing with, and I mean, in a way, it. I mean, I've heard people say that they don't like the way Nick Fury's character was changed. I'm like, this is the start of Nick Fury's character. She influences him, so I like that.
Yeah, expects he'd be a lot more, easygoing, before the betrayal.
Betrayal, traitor.
Now I'm just wondering though, like for the sequel, because like the problem with Captain Marvel is she's so damn powerful. Like I'm sure like the creators probably don't know fully what to do with her. Considering how many planets she fights for now. So getting her to like interact with the rest of the Avengers is probably going to be rather difficult. But I guess we'll see where it goes.
Honestly, I can see them having Captain Marvel 2 set maybe before Endgame, or I'm not sure. I don't really follow up on the news of what's happening in these films. I prefer to be surprised, so if it's actually set afterwards, I don't know. But from my understanding, she's one of the top tier characters in the Marvel Universe at this point, and I don't think she needs to be around the Avengers. I mean, hell, she no-selled the headbutt from Thanos like nothing. They had to use an Infinity Gem to take her out. So, I mean, I feel like if you're going to have her with the Avengers, you'd have to have her with some top-tier talent.
Which I'm sure they'll bring out eventually. It just, again, it creates kind of a disconnect though. Like she's kind of no longer human. She's like above everything now. So it's gonna take like some, big guns to really like make sense to have her character like come in. So.
I mean, from what I understand from the comics, Captain Marvel was always like one of those, top tier Avengers level threats. Like she was who was brought in to, stop Galactus and stuff like that. And if they're going the Galactus route, then, I mean, that would be great.
I mean, it's the logical conclusion in my opinion, but I guess, again, we'll see where it goes. So, next up on our list, Dumbo. Oh, and just for clarification, if we didn't make it clear already, 1 is the best, 13 is the worst, just so y'all can keep track. But yeah, Dumbo, bottom of my list, 13, worst fucking movie of this year, no doubt. Ugh.
I put it at number 12, and I'll get to why in a minute. But yeah, this was horrible. I watched this on Disney Plus after everything happened, and I had to keep pausing the film because there are just so many ridiculous things that happen in this, and I'm like, no, what, Doug?
I also put this at number 12, and probably for the same reason that you did. Again, I'll also explain why I only have 12 instead of 13 as we get later in the list. This one was bottom of the barrel. I thought, I know you're gonna get very hit or miss with child actors, but these These kids just had nothing. They were giving us nothing. It's a freaking what's his name? Tim Burton wet dream. The the basic movie is all in like the first 30 minutes, I want to say, and then it just kind of continues, and it's like I said, it's all the Tim Burton wet dream, and it's stupid what they're trying to do. And also it wastes Danny DeVito and Michael Keaton. You have a freaking Batman Returns reunion there, and you have like sort of a reversal of them. It's like Danny DeVito, I guess you could say he's the good guy, and Michael Keaton's the bad guy in this. But it wastes them. It's so boring. They really don't really do much with it, and the ending doesn't really make sense either.
It just raises too many questions. For one, they do the pink elephant sequence, and to be fair, the pink elephant sequence in the original Dumbo did not make sense, but the elephant was drunk. So
a baby was drunk.
A baby was drunk, so that makes in-universe sense why that was happening. But here, they just have... I don't even know they have some sort of machine that makes elephants dance with bubbles, and that whole sequence, I was like, what am I watching? What am I what the fuck?
I know it's one of those, where the remakes has to try and make everything politically correct, but they probably could have done something with the crows or had something instead of the crows. They could have fixed things, but instead they just opted to make everything either boring or just completely bullshit off the wall, and you have no connection. You just...
It's a very dull film. It's a very brown, dark film, and the thing that got me more than Danny DeVito being wasted in this film was that there was only one sequence in the film that I enjoyed, was when he had the monkey in his desk, and he's like, why is there a monkey in your desk? Oh, it's only for emergencies. That was the only point of the film that I had any sort of joy on my face while watching it, because it was a decent joke. But you start thinking when you're not enjoying a film, okay, what else can I latch on to? And I'm watching it, and I'm just thinking, this film is the exact opposite of what Dumbo stood for.
Yeah, this film got to me, like, for me, was the worst for three big reasons. One, it looks awful. From what I heard, everything was on a soundstage, even, like, the outside shots. It basically has Star Wars prequel syndrome, where everything is fake, and because it's fake, everybody in the movie has to pretend to react to what's going on, even though they can't see it. Hence why, two, for me, the bad acting results. Because, dear God, the acting. Like, how can you make Michael Keaton into a bad actor? That takes something. That really does. And third is that the people's reaction in it. Like, because in the movie, in the original Dumbo, everyone was amazed when, Dumbo flies for the first time. It's this incredible thing that they've never seen, that's never been done. And then, he gets all the fame and stuff after this. But in this film, when he does something incredible like flying or stuff, the first thing the audience does when they see first off, when the audience sees his big ears, they're like, oh, that's fake. Who are you trying to fool? Like, that's, like, what, like, we're not stupid. And I'm like, it's an elephant with giant ears in a circus. You're really gonna put logic in this. And then when he flies, and later on people are like, oh, cool, he flies. What else does he do? Bitch, it's a flying elephant! Be impressed! This isn't like fucking 2000s where everybody's jaded and they know that, like, oh, it's just special effects, oh, it's just strings. No, this is like early 1900s where people are wowed by, like, magic and shit. Like, none of it makes sense, and it's so frustrating. And that just was me the entire movie. I was frustrated, and I hated it. Ugh.
The minute we left the theater, I swear I forgot a good 90% of the movie, and I'm probably better off for it.
It was so dull and lifeless, like everyone reacted with dull surprise. But here's my thing. Okay, the original Dumbo, the entire point was that he left the circus because they were exploiting the elephants. The film was all about them saying, hey, let this elephant be free. But this film, this remake of Dumbo, is all about how he's happy. And the only reason he leaves is because he was bought out by a big corporate guy who's evil. Like, since you don't... It's the antithesis of the original movie. It's like someone watched it and did not even understand what the movie was about.
I mean, to this film's credit, at least it had an ending. Because in the original one, he flies, and then it's assumed that all of his problems got solved because of it. Whereas in this movie, they actually show him escaping to be with his own kind. You know, which would be fine and all, but I don't know, like, after sitting through the frustration, like, I just felt hollow at the end. I was just grateful for the film to be over.
Yeah, it was... Yeah, they overcomplicated the film way too much. Also, another thing that I latched onto, you could get away with the elephant flying in the original because it was an animation. Here, I kept looking at it and it looked so fake, but also the elephant's ears would not be able to support its body mass. It does not make sense, and they're trying to approach it scientifically. I only say this because the whole reason they figure out how he flies is because they apply scientific thinking to it.
And this movie's really big on, like, you know, tell, don't show. Like, you'll see an elephant looking sad, and the kid has to say, oh, look, she's sad. Yeah, we get it. You don't have to fucking spell it out for us. Like, the movie treats us like we're stupid. That's, like, the most insulting thing about it.
Bring back Toby Tyler. I'd rather have a monkey with a gun than a monkey in a desk.
Well, anyway, let's move on from the horrible stuff to the awesome stuff. Avengers Endgame. Easily the best film of the fucking year. Like, hands down.
Number one.
Number one. There is absolutely no fucking way anything could have topped that movie. Heck, even the past Marvel movies cannot top that fucking movie. This was the most grandiose, satisfying thing I had ever seen in my life. Hands down.
3 words. On your left.
Oh my God.
From the portal scene, I watched this in IMAX, and when that portal scene happened, people started cheering, and like each individual portal, like, you know, the people from Wakanda, Black Panther walked out, we started cheering and clapping. People saw Spidey come back, and they cheered loudly. Like, you could... it was the best. It was the best part of the film. Aside from I knew it.
Oh my God, the last 30 minutes were just pure gold. I can watch that over and over and just be so satisfied. Like, especially the part where it's like Avengers, and I'm like, say it. Assemble.
Say
it. There were so many big fan moments, and it was just like, to me, this is a film that I've seen multiple different times all throughout the year, and it just gets better with repeated viewings and seeing how each scene fits together, the payoffs to everything that's come before it, because this is a payoff to 10 years of cinema, and everything that you've been thinking about, a battle with every single Avenger that's still around, there, you know, check. You have finally Cap revealed that he's worthy, which I knew it. I've been saying it since I've been saying it since the very beginning.
I've been saying that too since Ultron. I'm like, dude, he is so worthy. He's just holding back because he's cool.
And people are saying, "Oh yeah, we all knew it." I'm like, "No, because you didn't believe me back then." But no, but we have that. We have the Scarlet Witch finally tearing people up, and we see, oh, she's been keeping her power in check this entire time because she can wreck some shit.
You killed my boyfriend. I don't even know who you are.
You will. Like there's just so many big fan moments. I mean, like, I originally thought that the airport scene in Civil War was going to be something that's hard to top. I don't know how you top this last 30 minutes of this film because of just literally the amount of fan moments, the amount of characters, Pepper getting to utilize her armor with Tony.
Finally.
Just there's too many to count. This is just hands down an amazing send-off to 10 years of Marvel cinema.
Let's not also forget that everybody had been waiting with bated breath for a whole year after Infinity War.
We did all waiting. 12 months of it. It has come.
Like we're desperate for anything from Ant-Man and Wasp and from Captain Marvel, but we're waiting months between this, and it's like...
and we weren't sure how it was going to play out, especially because the end of Ant-Man, I'm like, how like. Also, I love the time heist angle. Let me just say, I love that they reference all these time flicks, and they're like, that's not how time travel works.
I mean, I can kind of see where a lot of the people like have complaints in that part of the movie, because yeah, trying to explain time, even in like a movie with its own concept of time travel, is gonna draw criticism. Just because, again, there are so many infinite ways and no confirmed way of doing it. So, yeah, I can definitely see where the complaints come with that. But even so, it was still really enjoyable just seeing them go back to, like, the first Avengers and all the other stuff in between. And seeing old things get wrapped up. Like, I love the scene with Tony reconnecting with his dad and Steve reconnecting with Peggy. Like, it tugged at my heartstrings, and I loved it.
He connects with his mom. Not his dad.
I said Tony.
Oh, right. Sorry, I thought you said Thor.
Yeah, Thor with his mom was also heartbreaking too.
Yeah.
But
for me, I like the little moments, like the Hulk seeing his character growth, and he's like seeing old Hulk, and he's just like, smash. Like him half-heartedly pretending to smash was the best thing, and really this is showing the end of a lot of their character arcs. Tony being selfless and instead of trying to solve everyone's problems, sacrificing himself for the greater good.
The greater good.
Shut up. No, that hurt me. That hurt me so bad because Tony was like my favorite Avenger, and like I kind of knew this was coming given how his character arc was going, but oh god, that hurt so much. But it was so satisfying. Like I couldn't have thought of a better way for him to go out, and like I love him 3000. I really do. Like seriously, the part at the funeral where you see you see his mechanical heart and it said proof that Tony Stark had a heart, that got me crying. Like legitimately, I'm like, no, my boy.
That entire ending had me in tears. I mean, like just the way they handled the funeral scene. But like it's not just Tony, like the Hulk had finally coming to grips with his alter ego, and it's not just, we have to keep switching, or it's not we have to keep him in check. It's like they're now one person. You have Cap finally getting what he wanted and getting that dance from a nice bookend from the first Captain America. Every single character has some sort of conclusion to their arc. Also, I love that they made Sam, Mr. Falcon, the new Captain America.
Hell yeah. Falcon's awesome.
Hell yeah.
Also, just so we all know, it may not be official, but Steve Rogers is Mr. Rogers. He went back in time. He started the TV show Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood.
A diabolical devil.
No.
There's so much we could just talk about with the Avengers Endgame. This is simply one of the best superhero movies that we've ever seen. And yeah, there are little problems here and there. Do all the jokes work? Not necessarily. Are there some plot holes? A couple in the middle. And there is a fridging of a character that I don't think was necessary. But, you know, maybe they'll address it in the Black Widow series. Maybe we'll see going forward. But for right now, what we got with Endgame was just perfect.
11 billion stars. But now we move on to a lesser film, unfortunately. Aladdin. So, yeah, for me, I agree, this is not a good film. However, I did not hate it nearly as much as certain people did. I put it at number 10 for me.
No, number 9 for me.
I put it at number 9, and here's the thing. I liked this movie out of all of these remakes that were happening. I think Aladdin was the best this year, because it embraced a lot of like ideas to improve Aladdin, but also it embraced Bollywood, and I love the dance numbers as well. But I think it does a great job of improving some things in Aladdin. For example, I think they gave Princess Jasmine a much stronger character. The actress who plays Princess Jasmine in this remake is fantastic and steals like every single scene. The new songs that they added for her character were great. I like what they did with Jafar and giving him an actual backstory. He's not just an evil person. He was someone who's out for revenge because he came from nothing, and you know, it's a nice parallel to Aladdin. I like that. I like that the Sultan isn't just a bumbling oaf now.
Yeah.
Because in the original, he kind of was a bumbling oaf. And while some people may take issue with the fact that Iago is not the best voice actor, Gilbert Gottfried, I like that they made it more realistic in that regard. As for Will Smith, yes, he's probably the weaker link in the film, but I think he did amazing with his songs, even though I think they should have gone with the rap version at the end of Friend Like Me instead of the Friend Like Me that they used.
I completely agree on the subject of Will Smith. I think, honestly, it could have benefited more from Will Smith doing his own take on the genie versus, you know, trying to imitate Robin Williams. Because I know, like, we've seen Will Smith in, like, Fresh Prince and, like, I hate to, you know, use kind of a worse movie, but I Am Legend. We see him kind of go into these, you know, quirky characters and stuff. So I think he could have, in his own way, made the genie work. And yes, definitely, I think they should have at least given all of the genie songs the like more hip hop treatment or, you know, rap treatment, because honestly, Will Smith just sounds so uncomfortable when he's not doing his own, you know, his own style, when he's actually, you know, trying to sing the regular way. I think, yes, we would have benefited more from that. Mm-hmm. Aladdin animated 92 is probably hands down my favorite Disney film. I saw it 3 times in theaters. This one, I think once was enough. I think, honestly, it's kind of a downgrade. I think a lot of the message is very ham-fisted. I will agree with you on Jafar. I like what they did with his character. I think it does actually make him the antithesis of Aladdin, given that it's what Aladdin could become if he were to, continue to seek power. Um, but I will say a lot of Jafar's thoughts were questionable. Um, I thought there was way too much goddamn padding in this. Especially with like that one prince who's apparently now going to be getting his own spin-off series on Disney Plus. What?
He wasn't
Why?
even that funny. Like
Why?
the
No,
whole
that scene just dragged. I wanted that to be over.
I sincerely hope that's just a joke or a rumor or something. Like, it was on. I saw the link to that on like a legit website, but I don't know. Just like, please, no, for the love of God.
I thought we did not need a reprise of Jasmine's song that she gets because it wasn't even
it's
really that
so
good in the first
good.
place.
It's so good.
Not
And it's
really.
like it just kind of wastes time. I get, the female empowerment, but this is even weaker than Captain Marvel or even any of the Bitten Avengers. Um, I really did not care for that. Alan Tudyk is wasted as Iago.
Extremely.
Yeah. Uh, I thought it was kind of weird doing the whole love bit for the genie. It doesn't hurt it really. It doesn't really do much for it. Um, yeah, I mean, honestly, it's like there were things that could have worked better in this, but I think they decided to go way too safe with it, and it hurts the film.
I mean, for my money, I think had they gone a bit further with the Bollywood stuff, we may be singing a different tune. It is a little bit safe. In fact, a lot of the remakes have been very safe. I'm more looking forward to Mulan because the trailers for Mulan look really, really good.
We'll
But when
discuss
it
that at the end. So.
okay. Well, anyway, with that being said, I like a lot of these characters. I like the songs. I mean, I don't know different opinions at all, but I love Jasmine's songs. And I like how awkward Aladdin is when he's acting to be a prince because that makes sense because he's a peasant and he doesn't know how to act like a prince. I'm sorry, the jam scene was pretty funny to me.
Oh, that scene was torturous. Dear God. Like, I get that they're trying to put across the point that, hey, he's a peasant, he doesn't exactly know how to act in front of royals, but that scene went on way too long and was way too awkward. I was, like, hiding my face and cringing the whole time, just praying for that scene to be over. Plus, in some sense, it doesn't make sense because like he's supposed to be Aladdin's kind of a con man. He's good at smooshing people over and like pulling off an act and everything. Like he really couldn't pull off the act of a prince, like or at least how to pull off a decent conversation. That to me just went a bit too far. Like, ugh.
I don't know. I was laughing about it, and yeah, he's a con man, but at the same time, it's normally with people who's on the same level as him, more commoners. So,
And then one thing I really don't like: no giant snake scene. Where's my giant snake scene? That's one of the best scenes in Aladdin.
True.
I feel like it probably would have taken more CGI than the budget had room for, if I had to guess.
Let's be fair here. I think the effect work in this film is much better than some of the others on the list, especially because it actually feels much more authentic, I think is the right word for it. Like compared to stuff like Dumbo and the other films that we're going to be listing, I felt like the effect work was pretty good. So adding in a giant snake might have made it more fakey. I don't know.
I'm just saying, like, I thought the whole thing with Genie was overblown. Like, everyone saying, oh my god, the CGI is awful, this movie's gonna suck. I'm like, he doesn't look that bad. And anyway, Genie's supposed to be an animated character, so it makes sense if he doesn't look quite right. So, I mean, even if they did the giant snake, I mean, they did a giant Iago. Like, what's the difference making it a snake from a parrot? It just. Ugh. I don't know. I agree. The effects are not as bad as other movies we've seen. I don't know.
Oh, and then the magic carpet ride was kind of underwhelming.
I think Arabian Nights was great, and I think the end credits rap song with DJ Khaled was amazing.
No,
But
I
then
agree with
again,
you. They should have made that the version that they put in the movie proper.
like it plays to Will Smith's strengths because he's a rap artist, and if they had, and Genie's supposed to be timeless, so he makes references to other things. He should be rapping. And
Agreed.
the Prince Ali song, the first half that they showed in trailers was kind of meh. The ending was what sold it. The second half is better. It's not perfect, but it's better. But again, he should be rapping.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I kind of do like some of the songs, like the whole setup to Arabian Nights, like how the sweeping camera angles where it shows all the characters who are going to be appearing in the film, like in their starting points and stuff. I thought was really well done, and even points of like the One Jump song, like the way they seamlessly move through the market and everything, I thought was well done for the most part.
Oh,
But
One Jump was great. I forgot about that for a second, but
yeah,
One Jump. In some places, I think the timing on the song was slightly better than the original because the way they do when they do like the talk breakdown, I don't know how to say this but when it goes from the singing parts to the like just people talking in the background, instead of singing they're actually just talking.
yeah. Some parts were good. Some parts you could tell they had to like speed up or slow down just to get up in rhythm. So.
Yeah, it's hard when you're trying to make it more realistic like that, but I think they did a great job with One Jump, and Riff Raff was pretty good too.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, the whole movie's a mixed bag, pretty much. It's not as bad as I think some people are making it out to be, but it's definitely not good. So, that's pretty much what I have to say at this point.
I mean, I've seen it maybe like 4 times on Disney Plus recently, so I'm one to talk. I love Aladdin in general, and I think this is pretty decent. It's not as good as The Jungle Book, but it's good. It's not Dumbo.
Thank God. But let's move on from Aladdin now. Next up is Toy Story 4. The movie that technically shouldn't exist, but it does. Yeah, I put this at number 8. Because, again, this movie really should not exist. Although, it doesn't hurt from existing.
I put this one at number 3.
I put this at number 6. Personally, I don't think it... I mean, it's kind of pointless in certain regards because it is kind of a retread of Toy Story 2 in certain aspects. It does end differently. The reason I put it kind of middling is that there were some really big emotional moments that got me, but I don't think it's quite as good as some of the other Toy Story films because while I was crying during certain scenes, it's not like Toy Story 2 or 3 where I was bawling my eyes out.
No, it does not reach that level ever. Like, maybe toward the end I was crying, but yeah, when you compare to the first 3, there really is no comparison. Like, again, there are emotional stakes, but these are stakes that really shouldn't be in the first place, if we're being honest.
What it did best, though, was it was very funny. One thing I will give this above some of these, it was a very funny comedy. I loved what was it, Key and Peele,
Key and Peele.
Yeah.
Yep.
as the plush toys. Like the plush rush scene had me. The scene where they have to get the key and they're like explaining it, but they don't actually explain how they got the key. Oh, it was very, very hard. Like there were some really great moments with that. I thought at first I would find Forky annoying, but I ended up enjoying the character. There was just really good comedic timing, and I think if I wasn't carrying the Toy Story brand, I think I would like it a little bit more because as a comedy it's great, but it doesn't feel like Toy Story.
Yeah. I will say though, like, I expected to hate Forky too, and I ended up sort of identifying with him a bit because, like, where he's like, "I am not a toy, I am trash," and I'm like, "I get you, buddy, I get you." But
I like when they were explaining how he feels like it's just warm and snuggly. Oh, well, that's how she sees you. I'm her trash.
I won't lie, I was kind of cringing a bit throughout the movie because I'm like, yeah, she did technically get all of that out of the garbage can, and she's like hugging it and everything. Like, that's kind of disgusting. And I'm like,
Well, she is very young.
I know, but it's like, this isn't a movie for kids. Like, are we encouraging kids to take stuff out of the trash and make stuff with it? I get, reuse, recycle, use your imagination, but stuff from the trash that people touched, theoretically put their mouths on? Really? And
At the same time, kids who are like kindergarten age, they're sticky and gross. And I mean, I'm OCD and germophobic, so I'm not. I remember being like that, but I'm like, no.
You know what the funny part is? When the toy version of Forky came out, they actually recalled it because the small pieces kept coming off. It was literally becoming trash.
I love how his eye kept popping off and like bits and pieces like kept having to be remade for him, and I'm like, he's Mr. Potato Head, but very, very cheap.
Pretty much. But I will say I did like Bo Peep's storyline. I'm glad we actually got an answer to that because, granted, I wasn't yearning for an answer as to what happened to Bo Peep, but what they gave us I thought was pretty good, and I do like she was able to like find some justification for her existence outside of being a toy, and that she and Woody ultimately got to be together again. Like, I was kind of worried that they were going to go back to status quo. I'm glad that he stayed with her. And they basically formed the toy version of Pound Puppies. A perfect toy for every kid.
I also really love some of the new side characters, like Duke Kaboom, Yes We Canada, and
Keanu.
and I forget the little Polly Pocket. What was it?
Polly Pocket. She was an actual toy. That's what she was called, Polly Pocket. I actually had one as a kid.
I love like her going into officer mode, and I love I honestly feel like Gary Giggles, I think that's the name of the villain, like was a better villain than some of the ones we've seen before, because she actually had a sympathetic backstory, and I kind of felt for her in a lot of ways.
Well, I think they all kind of had sympathetic aside from Sid. But in this case, it's like she's the only one that still has hope. It's like all the other ones, they completely got, they hit their end and they just gave up all hope. It's like this one, she's not so much a villain, she's an antagonist. In that, it's like she's still ultimately she doesn't want anybody harmed. She just wants her own thing. She's not going to force anybody to do something aside from, if she could just get a new voice box. That's all she wants so that she can, do her dream. So, yeah, I felt like she was kind of a breath of fresh air in terms of a Toy Story villain.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
honestly, this movie in general surprised me. Like, I was exactly like everybody else, thinking that, it really should end at Toy Story 3, and effectively it should. But to quote my one boss, he says, like, with comparing Toy Story 3 and 4, it's like you just had a steak and now somebody's giving you a hamburger. There's nothing wrong with the hamburger. It's a perfectly good hamburger, but you already had, this great steak, but it's still good. It's still like a genuine story, and of course it affects you emotionally. I'm saying that Pixar is a bully because yet again they have taken my money, punched me in the gut, and left me crying.
Yeah,
As
in
a
a way, like
tradition.
Yep.
I still don't think it is quite as good as 2 or 3, but I think it was a great film. I think it was highly enjoyable, and all the comedy got to me in a big way, and the villain especially got under my skin. Not just because the dummies were creepy as all get out.
Ugh, God, those things. Ugh.
I love Forky was just like, he is creepy as hell. But
Ain't
like
lying.
the ending where the anti-villain or whatever it is, like where she got the second chance, really got to me. More than even Woody, because honestly, I didn't even care quite as much for Woody's story as her and Buzz's. Buzz's where he was searching his inner voice.
I feel so
Thank
bad
you,
for
inner
Buzz. He
voice.
got like the shaft in this almost, aside from that one thing.
But yeah, like I don't think it's a bad film. I honestly, I think it's perfectly servable, great. I just when you think of Pixar standards for Toy Story, it's just not quite as. I think it might be better than 1, since when looking back at 1, it's kind of dated, but certainly not on par with 2 or 3.
That we can at least agree upon for sure. So, like, okay, you exist. I accept it, but you're not there. Sorry. And now on to our...
But give me more Plush Rush. I want more Plush Rush.
Oh my god, I would love to see more of that giant plush
And laser
ride.
eyes. that bit at the end where they just grow giants.
And laser eyes. I have heat vision.
But now on to our next movie, probably our most controversial movie, because Doug and I had been arguing about this for a while now. Spider-Man Far From Home. So, I count it as Disney. Doug does not. What do you think, Zen?
I say we kill the beast. I mean, like, it's so hard to tell right now because we had the Sony merger, the deal that they had with Disney.
That's exactly it. It's not a merger, it's a deal. So the movie has been put out by Sony. I will acknowledge it in honorable mention as being in the Marvel universe and associated with Disney. It's Disney adjacent. But I cannot in good conscience put it on my
It is still
actual
in the
list.
MCU though. It's in
It was
continuity.
made by Marvel Productions. It is in and of itself a Marvel property. The only difference is that the movie rights are owned by Sony as well as the distribution rights. So yes, in that sense, had Sony come out with their own individual Spider-Man, he would be part of that. But because he was made by Marvel, which is owned by Disney, I consider him Disney. And y'all can argue in the comments about that if you want, but I'm sticking to my guns on that. Sorry.
The thing I'll say, it is very complicated, especially because during this year, the merger I keep saying merger, I'm sorry. The deal fell through, and we weren't going to have a Spider-Man 3, and then Tom Holland got the band back together, and we actually got it going again. But it's on shaky ground. I will acknowledge this film, since it was produced by both of them as both a Sony and Disney film.
And it came out before the fallout with Sony.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, assuming we're counting this, for me it would be number 5. So I don't consider it as good as Homecoming, but it was still enjoyable nonetheless. Like, considering that it came out right on the heels of Avengers, like, it still managed to do a lot on its own despite all that.
I put it at number 3 because I found this highly enjoyable, and I am admittedly a bit biased, but I love Mysterio. Mysterio is my favorite goddamn Spider-Man villain, and my god, Mysterio in this film is perfect. Yes.
I was rather impressed by Jake Gyllenhaal's ability to portray a villain like that, because like I never really saw him in a role that way, and the way he goes from being this charming, like endearing guy to like this intense psychopath was like literally really impressive to me. I thoroughly enjoyed it because I didn't know much about Mysterio outside of what I've seen in the animated show, but the way they portrayed him, the way they link him back to Tony Stark, and how he had been a part of that whole the whole holograph thing, like it fits in really well. And and granted they make him sympathetic at first, but then they show what a complete psycho he is, and that just I think makes him all the more enjoyable. So, and the effects that they do when he makes Peter hallucinate, like that was almost as good as Doctor Strange. Like those visuals, like I'm watching that, I'm thinking, thank God I'm not high right now, or I'd be freaking the fuck out.
They just did a fantastic job with this character, and the reveal at the end, first of all, thank you, J. Jonah Jameson's back.
Oh, that was the best part of the movie. When that came up, we were laughing, we were cheering. I'm like, yay, he's back! He's back!
He's back! He's back!
He's here to get pictures of Spider-Man!
Now get me goddamn pictures of goddamn Spider-Man! But also the fact that they revealed his identity was fantastic. But also, I am convinced that Mysterio is not dead. This is a trick. He planned this in advance as he always has backup plans. Mysterio is all about illusions and backup plans, and I'm convinced this is all a lead into the third film. But still, it may not be as big as, other Spider-Man films, but like Mysterio is a small villain, but they managed to make him really work. This is the second time, like, the Vulture is a small-time villain, but they managed to make him work. They did it again with Mysterio. They just did a fantastic job. I love Night Monkey.
Night Monkey.
And even if they lost the license to Spider-Man, they could always use Night Monkey. I'm just saying. It's not taken.
Oh my god, can you imagine the next movie comes out and everyone's thinking Spider-Man, but no, it's like Night Monkey. And it's like, everyone's like, what the fuck?
I mean,
Disney announces new Spider-Man movie starring Tom Holland.
And you know what's the funny thing is they can't use the spider sense because that's trademarked. That's why they call it the Peter Tingle.
Oh my god, that was so stupid.
I love the Peter Tingle.
So stupid. I just don't like how they brought it up now as opposed to past movies, because you thought that would have been more of a thing. But, whatever, I guess they had to fit it somewhere.
They didn't really have a chance to, now that I think about it, though. Like, maybe the first film, but the first film was more about establishing stuff with the Avengers and fallout from the previous movie, and I don't know. I think this was a decent way of putting it in. I like MJ a lot more in this film than previous. I mean, I liked her before, but I think they did a great job of revealing the identity to her and everything. Like there was things that I liked that this film did in terms of being a Spider-Man film. As a Spider fan, as someone who's, watched the animated series, I haven't read the comics, but I've played the games, and, like, this did it for me. And again, goddamn Mysterio.
That is one thing that, that always baffled me, though, is, how Peter suddenly got a crush on MJ, because, there was really no build-up to that in the first Spider-Man, and it's, even when we saw him since, like, suddenly in Homecoming, it's like, oh yeah, she's my crush. I want to tell her how I feel. I'm like, where did this come from? In the first film, she was like harassing him and creeping him the fuck out, and now it's like, as soon as that other girl's gone, oh look, he's in love with MJ. Okay, I guess that makes sense since that's the way it is in the comics. But can you show a little bit of that? Like,
Well, it could have been hormones, or it could have been, when he got all dusty and he suddenly realized, oh god, I'm in love with her.
I guess. I don't know. I just would have liked to see more. Like, I do like when they legitimately get together. Don't get me wrong. But I just would have liked to see a little more build up to that. I mean, that's essentially what the first 3 Spider-Man with Tobey Maguire did. At least then you can see how they fell in love. But,
Yeah, well, kinda, not really the third film, but we don't talk about the third
we
film.
don't talk about that.
Bully Maguire.
And then I danced a bit, and yeah.
Oh, God. But, yeah, I agree. Yeah, like, again, not as good as Homecoming, but I do like it for what it is. I like seeing him trying to live up to the Iron Man legacy, being Iron Spider and all that, him trying to take after his adopted dad. So, and although I am legit terrified now what's going to happen to him in the next movie now that Jameson has fucking outed him to the world. Like, poor kid. He goes through so much shit, and it's not fair.
I mean, that's
Well,
par for the course for Peter Parker.
That is
Yeah.
Spider-Man. His life
Yeah.
is a living well of misery.
But it's Tom Holland. Don't hurt my baby boy. Come on.
Especially not after, he saved Spider-Man.
In that case, he should have kept the instant kill.
You know what? J.K. Simmons better be back in the next movie, and the villain better be that student that keeps noticing that he's disappearing every so often. The one student that has brains.
Or we could do a Sinister Six.
We could do Sinister Six. I mean, if you have to end it with a third film, we could do Sinister Six. But I don't know. I think it's a little bit soon. I think you kind of have to build up to Sinister Six, but we only have 2 of the 6. But, I mean, that's me.
I mean, you technically even have more, given that there were a bunch of them in Homecoming that were like side characters. And you saw like Scorpion at the end of Homecoming.
You saw Scorpion, but then we're gonna need a new Electro because they killed the but I mean, you could
He's not
theoretically
dead.
do it.
He's not
There's
dead,
no
he's getting
set
better.
membership for the Sinister Six.
Yeah, I mean, what I really hope that they do is Chameleon, because I think Chameleon would work for this version of Spidey. It's a small-time villain, but he's part of the Sinister Six, and when done right, like Mysterio, it can be good. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, so moving on to, I guess, more legit films.
Stop fucking Aunt May! Why does everybody want to fuck Aunt May?
Because she's young and hot.
Marissa Tomei, she's gorgeous. What do you expect?
I don't just mean that. I mean like in general.
I know.
Ugh.
I know, it's... I know. Anyway, moving on. The Lion King. The remake. The animated remake of an animated film.
11.
11.
Yeah, 11. Wow, we agreed.
This is the only one we actually all 3 of us saw together.
Yeah,
this was
in Canada.
like
Yep.
we went down and we saw the film, and this was like when I wasn't dying from something or other. I was actually around, and we went and saw it. It was
Yeah.
It's just like, how do you improve on The Lion King? Like, theoretically, there could be 1 or 2 ways, but to make a hyper-realistic version of it? Really?
But it's not even realistic. Here's the thing. They call it live action, but it's CG.
Yeah,
it's CG.
because like if they had the trained animals doing some of like the parts or whatever, then it would be considered live action. But I know for a fact this was pretty much all CG because some of those animals you cannot train. So not to mention the HR nightmare that it would create just to bring them in. So yeah.
It'd be Roar 2.
Oh god.
Roar 2 Electric Boogaloo.
Everyone dies of gangrene.
The thing with this version of The Lion King is that while most of it is boring, there isn't a lot that really warrants mention. They messed up Be Prepared. They I like what they did with Timon and Pumbaa. I think that the voice actors were fine, but it's just not expressive enough. It feels like it feels like they didn't put any effort into it. And when watching this in theaters, I was just not. I didn't care for any bit of the movie. I was just like, I was checked out.
They freaking brought James Earl Jones back, the only actor from the original, to actually reprise a character. And I was even disappointed that they did that. Because he gives nothing. He sounds like he doesn't want to be there. Any of the life that he had in the original animated film, it's gone. And I don't know whether that's on him not wanting to be there or really poor direction, but it was so disappointing.
Not to mention, there's an entire scene where we watch a literal ball of shit.
Oh God!
roll
that
through
went
the
on
desert.
Forever. That was symbolism for what we were actually watching.
This is a metaphor for this film. And I'm just like, nobody has any real expression to them. And I'm like, I gave the film the benefit of the doubt. But it was just like, I was checked out throughout most of the movie. Yeah, no. Go watch the original. Go watch the original.
Yeah, like I was like looking at scenes and I'm trying to like think in my head, okay, would this work better or whatever? Like they had a whole thing where like Scar actually was jealous of his brother because he stole the girl he loved. I'm like, I guess that could work. At least it cuts out the whole skeevy like Scar tries to make Nala his queen later on thing. But I don't know, like it wasn't memorable enough, and it's like you could take this out and it wouldn't make a difference. And yeah, and the voice acting was like okay for the most part. Like it wasn't impressive, and even the musical numbers were really like lackluster. It was just dull. It was just so dull. It's like, how do you really improve upon it? Like, how can you succeed where animation's already like done way better?
Especially because like the trailer for the original Lion King was basically the first opening sequence. They didn't cut anything because they knew it was so good that it would get people in seats. For this, you can't compare it. And yeah, it's not as bad as Dumbo, but there's nothing here.
Yeah, like I mean, I wouldn't count it as bad as Dumbo because at least this one tried to be faithful, which it definitely did, but that kind of just, it didn't do anything for it aside from, keep people from being overly pissed off. So, yeah, I just like don't make remakes of animated films. It just like don't make I should say don't make animated remakes of animated films, especially with animals that by nature are not expressive. It doesn't make sense. And it doesn't work.
It don't make sense. See, this here is Chewbacca. Now, Chewbacca is a Wookiee.
We're not there yet. Save the Chewbacca defense for later. Anywho, let's move on from a dull film to a fucking awful film. Maleficent, Mistress of Evil.
13.
10.
12. Ugh.
13.
I figured you would do that, Zen, considering how much you were complaining to me while you were watching it.
Okay, now I'm gonna break out the Chewbacca fizz. Now, this here is
No, that's not. That's Maleficent.
no, this here is Maleficent. She is a fairy who lives on the planet Kashyyyk.
What movie were you watching?
The movie she'd rather be watching.
Oh, too true.
It just don't make no sense.
Why did this have a sequel? This did not need a sequel. The first one, by itself, did not need to exist. And let's make this clear. I hated the first Maleficent. We did a whole podcast on that, for those of you who don't know. But yeah, I hated that movie. So when this was coming out, I'm like, why? Why? They did the Sleeping Beauty story. What the fuck else can they do with this? And apparently they decided to just pull a bunch of stuff out of their ass. Like, oh, let's explore Maleficent's backstory. Oh, let's show the princess getting married. Oh, let's show the two worlds at war. Like, let's not pick just one narrative and stick with it. Let's throw a whole bunch of stuff together and see what sticks. And
here's the thing that infuriated me, though. They contradict the things that they established in the first goddamn movie that was, it was a bad movie. Don't get me wrong, it flied in the face of the original Sleeping Beauty, but I know some people who liked some of the new stuff that they introduced. They threw it out the window. Maleficent's evil now. And she's attacking, and she has this power, and she's a fairy and a reincarnation of goddamn dragon or something. And she has the Phoenix Force inside of her. And now there's a war between the Hawkmen army and fucking the queen who's evil. Like the prince's mother is the villain in this film, and I'm like, God damn.
Meow.
It don't make no sense. It don't make no sense.
It does not. Like, I thought at one point she was going to end up being, like, another, like, famous fairy tale queen, like the one from Sleeping Beauty or so. Not Sleeping Beauty, from Snow White or whatever. But, yeah, she's just a queen who happens to be a bitch. And, she hates her husband and she wants to take over. Like, really? This is our villain? Like, we have a villain! The Mistress of Evil! Just make her evil! Why can Disney not do this? You used to make such great villains, but now they all have to be like woeful antagonists with a sad backstory that, oh, they're not actually evil, they're just perceived to be evil. Just let them be evil! Like, evil can be fun! Evil can be understandable! Just, God, don't make her like another fucking Frozen, like, Elsa character type. It just pisses me off.
I just don't understand the last 30 minutes of this movie, because after all of this shit happens, after people are slaughtered wholesale, murdered.
Yeah, I think this movie has a higher body count than Endgame did. And that is saying something.
We have two nations at war, murdered. Immediately afterwards, we have a wedding where they're all together, and it's fine. And the queen gets turned into a goat, and everyone's okay with this. And it's all happy-go-lucky, and the crow servant of Maleficent, who got turned into a bear and killed a bunch of people, said, "Oh, I'm sorry if I mauled any of you." Like, what tone are we having for this movie?
Like, I was, like, totally getting antsy in my seat just waiting for this fucking thing to end. I'm like, this is awful. Like,
To be
this
fair,
was the worst watch.
To be fair, and this is why, it ranks to me a little higher than Lion King and Dumbo. A, it's not a remake, it's actually a sequel. And B, there are some things that they actually try to do new. They're dumb, they completely fuck them up, but at least they tried something, which is
I don't know.
You can't really say the same for much of the other ones.
But here's the thing. They fucked it up the first place. They had the chance to fix it.
Mm-hmm.
They had the opportunity to fix it. And they didn't. And, I can say of Dumbo, I like some of the characters and some of the sequences. I can say in The Lion King that, some of the songs were decent. I can say for Aladdin that the rap was good. There's no part of Maleficent, Mistress of Evil, that I enjoyed. I had to pause the film more times than I could count. I mean, you saw my live reactions to it. Mm-hmm. Every single time I had to pause and breathe in because, dear God, and here's the worst part. I haven't even mentioned the worst part. There was a minion of the Queen.
Warwick Davis!
Who plays the pipe organ and fucking orgasms throughout the entire thing.
What was her deal? Was she, legit loyal to the Queen, that she is this determined to carry out her orders? Or is she, got her own thing going on? This character made no sense to me.
But she killed off one of the fairies. That's the only thing I liked about this movie. Yep. She killed off one of the awful fucking fairies.
But she killed off one of the fairies. But here's the thing: the pipe organ makes no goddamn sense. This is Maleficent. Okay, now here's this. They have a pipe organ. They fill it with this dust that kills magical creatures. The science of it is fine, whatever. But it only launches when she presses one specific key. Why not just make every key launch stuff? But it's only one launch point, and I'm just saying to myself, why don't they go to the goddamn door? Get out of the range of the goddamn thing. And somehow they're able to aim the dust in different places, and instead of going to the front of the building and not getting hit by the dust, they sacrifice themselves to the orgasming organist who has one button, and it's maybe she started playing the organ to trick them, but they already had locked the goddamn doors. They're not getting out. Just press the fucking button. Just press the button. It don't make no sense. This is an organ. The defense rests.
Yeah, honestly, the only reason I didn't place this above Dumbo was, and trust me, I had a really hard time trying to figure out which one was worse. The only reason I don't consider this worse than Dumbo is that, Maleficent is a sequel to an already bad film. So my expectations were as low as they possibly could be, and the film just met them. So, whereas Dumbo, I had a sliver of hope that it might try to be as good as the original. So that, for me, is what did it. It's between something that I knew was going to be shit turning out to be shit, or something that I hoped might not be shit becoming shit. So that's what my reasoning. But still, both films suck. They both suck so bad.
I want my money back, and I didn't spend money on them.
I think we didn't spend money on this either. We had 3 tickets.
I saved 2 comp tickets for almost a year specifically for this movie. Because I'm I am not giving a goddamn cents to this movie. And I stuck to that. So, up yours, Maleficent. This is an unbearable strain, but I'm doing it as hard as I possibly can.
This movie owes me a goddamn beer.
Well, anyway, let's move on to something a lot better than Maleficent. Frozen 2. Now, I had actually been looking forward to this. I didn't expect it to be as good as the first Frozen, but I expected something decent at least. And for the most part, that's what I got. So my placing for Frozen 2 is at number 6.
7.
Yeah, because honestly, let's be real here. They were never gonna top the first Frozen. That was like one of those sort of lightning in a bottle type deals.
Yeah, like it was a phenomenon. You're not gonna top it. The only thing I think was better than the original Frozen was the animation.
Yeah, they definitely improved upon the animation in this. Like you could actually like see their freckles and little details like here and there. Like and especially with the way they made like the autumn backgrounds and everything. Those were really beautiful. And I also liked how they designed the elemental spirits too. Those were cool.
But then everything changed when the Fire Nation attacked. Seriously, so much Avatar: The Last Airbender vibes from this.
Yeah, that's the big like fault with this film, unfortunately, is that it borrows heavily from other franchises, because like the whole thing with like, oh yeah, there are elemental spirits that earth, wind, fire, water. It's like, okay, that's Avatar. It's like, oh, and it turns out Elsa is the one who can control them all. Oh, so she's the Avatar?
She's the Avatar.
Oh no, wait, she's the fifth element. It's like,
she is Lilu Dallas Multipass.
yeah, like here's the thing for me though, because this is quite funny. So I saw this with my sister, like, and here's the thing: I saw this movie 4 goddamn times, like not of my own volition, but just with different people. But one of the times I saw it with my sister, and when our mom picked us up afterwards, she was asking us, "Oh, how was it and everything?" And my sister's like, "It was good. They finally explained Elsa's powers." And my mom's like, "Oh yeah, how did she get her powers?" My sister struggled. She truly struggled. So I'm like, Cal, let me explain this. Okay, Mom. So basically, wait, I can't explain this simply. I really can't. Like, you try to explain this to people, you have to tell the entire goddamn movie for them to explain, to like understand. There is no simple way of explaining her powers.
well, you see, there are 5 elements in nature. The 5th element turns out to be ice.
Somehow.
Yeah, and I was frozen today, and my parents went up to the memory well, and oh god, I've gone cross-eyed.
Hop on our backs, we'll take you up north.
Yeah, because like this conflict comes like right the fuck out of nowhere. Like they had to put a whole background thing in the beginning just for it to make sense later on. So. Yeah, and even then, it's like incredibly predictable. Like that her parents were involved. That she's like a special Avatar-esque character or whatever. Like you kind of know where this is all going. At one point, though, like I did think that they were gonna go the dark route with having the kingdom destroyed, but they copped out of that. So, oh well. But I mean, other than that, I mean, it was perfectly fine. Like I wasn't like thoroughly impressed by the story, to be quite honest. Like for me, the big draw was the music and the animation. That's what I really
the soundtrack is, or the musical numbers are so confused. Like you'll have like these really dramatic ones, and then you have like an 80s, 90s ballad out of nowhere.
I know, Christoph's voice actor, like he has such a nice voice, and I'm like, please give him a song in this, and they do, and it's like a fucking like 80s power ballad, and I'm like, where did this come from? Why is this in here?
The biggest draw to me, aside from the animation, was the characters. I love what they did with Olaf. I thought.
Oh my god, Olaf stole the fucking show.
Olaf stole the show.
Olaf stole the fucking show.
Him coming to terms with his adulthood, and he was great. And I love what they did with Kristoff and Sven. He finally found someone else that talks to reindeer or talks for reindeer.
It's just a shame that the villagers were so underutilized, though. Because like
I don't really remember their names, unfortunately.
Yeah, because like they come across like these villagers and even the Arendelle soldiers from when her father was king from long ago, but like they barely get any focus. It's just like, oh look, these people are here. I guess we should free them. Okay, we're not gonna see into their plight or anything. You're just gonna keep this plot moving. Okay, whatever.
Yeah, they felt kind of like an afterthought. I feel like they might have been setting up for another movie, but it definitely feel like they tried to cram two plots in together, but dropped one at the last second. You know what I mean? Because at first it was about, oh, let's find out about your parents, and then it was about, oh, this conflict, and then it was about the nature spirits.
I feel like a big reason this movie exists, aside from, obvious marketing and money and whatnot, is that I think this movie was really trying to redeem the parents. Because one big consensus for everybody who likes Frozen is that they think the parents were downright awful. The fact that they were trying to make Elsa hide her powers, that they separated her from her sister, that they had no contingency plan for should they die and leave Elsa in charge when she still has no grasp on her powers. This movie, I feel like, really went the extra mile to, like, humanize them, try to, like, show us their rational thinking, what they were actually trying to do. The fact that they actually drowned trying to find an answer to, like, help Elsa. Like, in that regards, I think they did a good job with that, because at least now I don't hate the parents as much. But I feel like that kind of, like, cuts into a lot of what they could have done with this movie. Or maybe that's just me.
Yeah, and I still feel like they didn't do enough with the parents, especially because they still made her conceal and all this other stuff. I like her mother. I'll say this.
It would have been cool if they mentioned that, like, maybe the mother had powers or something, like her people had powers, so it would explain why Elsa had powers, as opposed to, like, oh, well, she saved the prince who was her enemy, so the spirits rewarded her with a magical child. Okay, that makes sense, I guess? I don't know. I don't know.
This here is Elsa. Elsa lives in Arendelle.
No, you know what? I think we should just stop, and we should have Olaf just explain everything.
So this is my friend Elsa. She's in the Avengers.
Olaf really made it, especially when he's playing with the children. He's just like, oh, you guys are so awesome.
Samantha? I don't know it's Samantha.
Apparently he does. They showed a picture of Josh Peck posing with a Samantha who worked at Disney World.
From what I heard, they just let him, ad-lib most of the movie, and in this case, it works. It works
really well.
Yeah.
I will say, though, one of the scenes that I liked best in this movie was Anna's song, Do the Right Thing, where they show her in a depression and having to pull herself out of it in order to do what she had to. That, to me, I thought was both the best song as well as the most powerful scene in the movie, just because it is so identifiable.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it is so well shot, too. So, like, don't get me wrong, I love, Elsa's other songs, like Into the Unknown and Show Yourself. Those were great physical spectacles, but I felt like that song, Anna's song, was a lot more powerful.
That hits you right in the feel, especially for
Agreed.
anybody who's, suffered through depression.
I really felt for the characters in this movie. Like, this isn't a plot movie, this is a character piece. Mm-hmm. And when it comes to character, I really liked it. They really went the extra mile, I feel, to give the characters more presence and more depth. And more Olaf. So.
Alright, so now we move on to the biggie, the last theatrical release of 2019, Star Wars Rise of Skywalker. And let me reiterate real quickly, spoiler, 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 and to you Star Wars fans out there, for the love of God, keep an open mind, okay? With that being said, for me personally, Star Wars, the last in this new trilogy, is my number 2.
4.
8.
So now let the arguing begin, shall we?
Okay.
Star Wars Episode 9 is the worst thing since my son. No, I honestly don't. I don't hate it that much. I mean, there are definitely problems. I think part of it suffers from the fact that it's such the fact that Last Jedi and this and basically the whole thing were done by two different directors, and it feels like they didn't really have a plan, and then basically like anything negative from Last Jedi they had to scramble to fix in this, and yet in some cases it wound up not working for the worst. Seriously, Rose got screwed. Rose got absolutely screwed. I don't think anybody deserves what she got. I
No,
really wish they
definitely not.
had given her more screen time.
I
Fuck
can
the fans
agree
that,
with that.
yeah.
I can agree with that.
Fuck the fans that hated on Rose Tico and harassed her actress. Fuck them.
I will say this. I want a movie about Papa Palpatine.
What the hell's an aluminum falcon?
I want a movie about Papa Palpatine as told by the animation that I showed Kat.
Oh God, that
Where
just him slowly
he-
regenerating on a moon for like decades.
Essentially, he dropped down to the moon. He willed himself back to life because he doesn't even understand the concept of death. Oh God!
Let's talk about though Palpatine. Why did they have to immediately in the crawl immediately give away that he is back, and it just ruins everything. It's like, on the one hand, it's like, yes, if you're if you've been seeing the movies, if you've been watching since before it came out, and you got that announcement, okay, fine. But what about for like the new viewers who are going to be coming into this years later, watching it for the first time? That's going to be so jarring for them, and it's like,
especially like they wrote it in the trailer too, because they brought it. Like, give this a reveal.
yeah, give it a reveal,
Like,
and don't
yeah.
make him the big part of the whole movie, because then it becomes more about him versus any of the other characters. I like Ian McDiarmid or whatever his name is. I always enjoy seeing the Emperor, but this was not welcome.
I like how they tied everything in. I think it was very clever that Snoke is both a literal and figurative clone, because they pulled the wool over our eyes, and I think that was very cleverly done. For the people who didn't like that Snoke wasn't explained, it's like, oh, that was the point. I think that was nice. I think that made sense. I like that it was a throwaway line, but I like that they explained that there are things in the dark side of the Force that people might seem unnatural. They already talked about Darth Plagueis in the prequels, and I'm not a fan of the prequels, but the Sith don't know what death is. They can't spell it.
I also, in that this whole controversy, this whole controversy about the Force, explain to me what the Force is, because seriously, people are bitching about, oh, the Force doesn't work like that. That shouldn't be. It's like, fuck. What was from the very get-go, the very first film, is that, the Force is this kind of unknowable thing. Some people have more of a connection to it, yada yada. I'll even excuse the midichlorians if it's only just, a way to communicate with the Force. But, don't tell me that the Force doesn't work this way, that you shouldn't be able to do this, that, or the other thing, if you haven't firmly explained what the Force is to begin with, how exactly it works. Shut up. Shut up.
The Force is a plot device. First of all, it is a plot MacGuffin. But if we're actually talking about how the Force works, they explain that in the goddamn Last Jedi. It is not a power that you use, it is a force that connects all living things, and you can tap into that well to do fantastic things, like heal yourself. And there are things in the expanded universe that I haven't experienced and I've been told about, blah, 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 blah.
And
But
the original Jedi from like the Republic are basically all dead. Luke restarted it, and it is in my humble opinion that he sort of did away with some of the old stuff. That he found some things that the Jedi would have been too scared or just never bothered to, seek out, whether they thought it was too dark or they just, they were set in their own ways. So honestly, I think any of these things, I think these force healing and, stuff like that is all possible. It's just, it took whoever to figure it out or to discover it.
And even then, like, there are people like Snoke and Palpatine who could have taught Kylo Ren, or their Grey Jedi stuff. Like there's
Grey Jedi.
Yeah,
that is it exactly. I appreciate and want there to be more of the whole Grey Jedi.
Yeah, I mean, as somebody who hasn't really read any of the lore or seen a lot of the TV stuff or anything like that, I do know of the Grey Jedi. That would have been an interesting concept to introduce in this. Have Kylo Ren and Rey be the first Grey Jedi that we see in the movie. That would have been interesting. Because considering they're a dyad, they're an inverse of one another, they could have explored a lot with that. But no, because this movie had to be rushed, they kind of just I just felt like there was a lot of wasted potential there. And and what you're saying about the Emperor before, I feel like he was kind of a plot device in this for Kylo Ren's redemption. Because think about it, even if they revealed him later, that would have eliminated the scene where he offers Kylo Ren to be his apprentice and take over as Emperor and stuff, because he could have easily taken that right then and there. But no, he spends the rest of the movie desperately pleading with Rey to join him and defeat the Emperor, both to save themselves and especially to save her, to the point where he was willing to kill her just to keep her from the Emperor. So, and don't get me wrong, that doesn't make it any better. I still wish that they introduced the Emperor at the end of Last Jedi. To me, that would have been a lot better narrative-wise.
They should have introduced him, and they should have introduced that one officer that, after Hux gets killed, he takes over. Because it's otherwise, it doesn't make sense for these people to be here. Or they just come the fuck out of nowhere.
With that being said, what I love about the film, to me, is the emotion. Star Wars tends to go two different ways, because Star Wars is either very intellectual with its, artsy-fartsy stuff that it's trying to do, or it's emotional. This, to me, was an emotional film. I cheered so many different times when the Rebel fleet came, when Lando goddamn showed up, Lando goddamn Calrissian, when he was piling in the Millennium Falcon or the Aluminum Falcon or whatever it is. When you have these moments, it was great. And the redemption of Kylo Ren, I thought, was very, very well handled. Symbolically, I love the cracks on Kylo Ren's helmet. I think that's brilliantly done, because just by looking at the helmet, you can see he's torn and he's split. And even though he's trying to mask himself in black with the gloves, he's trying to cloak himself in the darkness. He's not really there. And there's so much good symbolism in this film. But overall, it's just a pure, emotionally driven, fun film. I'm sure there's tons of flaws, and I'm sure you're going to tell me about them. But I loved how it made me feel.
No, it's definitely I enjoyed it. There are a lot of flaws, but I think it comes from the fact that they tried to pack way too much into this one film, and it's also, supposed to be the end of the trilogy, of the Skywalker saga in general. So it's gonna have a lot to, disappoint. So it's hard to call on this one. I think it did as good. It probably could have done better. But I cannot in good conscience hate on this.
Yeah, I can't hate on it either by any means. And believe it or not, I actually do like this better than Last Jedi in a sense, because I did not care for Last Jedi. I was firmly split on that when we reviewed it last year. I've gained more of an appreciation toward it later, obviously, but with this one, I felt like there was just, to me, there was more satisfaction. There was, granted that the payoff to some things was abrupt, but at least it was there. At least it didn't totally dash any hope of anything like they did in Last Jedi with close ending all of their all of the plot lines. What yes, Rise of Skywalker is a mess. There's no arguing that. But seeing them at the end, everybody coming to the rescue, of seeing Kylo Ren redeem himself, that's another thing.
Chewie got a goddamn medal.
Chewie
Oh
got
my
his
God.
medal, thank God.
Chewie lived. I'm like, if Chewie had died in this, I would have thrown a fit.
Yeah, same here. I'm like, that would have been a bold choice, but I feel like it would have ended badly.
Yes.
Plus, this series also, this movie managed to make me love a character I originally hated. I hated Kylo Ren in the first movie. I thought he was just a wannabe Vader bitch boy. And then Last Jedi humanized him for me, but he still wasn't quite there yet. I'm like, no, stop being stupid. What are you doing? And then this one, he totally made up for it. So, yeah, that... I was I legit cheered when, they fought together. And then he died. Oh, that made me sad.
Seeing Han again, seeing Luke again,
it broke my heart.
Those moments were great. Seeing the last moments with the lovely Carrie Fisher. There's so many good things. And the thing to end this trilogy, you have all the original cast pretty much back. Mm-hmm. I mean, obviously,
you even have a lot of cameos from people they just dug out of whatever rock they were under for years. I mean, some of the cameos that they did, I think they got they got Wedge Antilles to come back.
Yeah, they did.
All the voices of the Jedi from the original and the prequels. And even Rebels. Even Rebels and Clone Wars were in there.
I mean, even though Akbar had died in the last film, they brought his ship in. Mm-hmm. You have Lando, Luke, Han, Leia, and you have Chewbacca and C-3PO and R2 and BB-8 and this new robot. There's so much nostalgia payoff here that I think it's really, really bookended well for The Force Awakens.
I mean, there is very much the good aspect of the nostalgia, but there is also the over-reliance on it, and that definitely hurts in places. And I think, we kind of need to steer away from the abundance of nostalgia in the future for,
I think it's good that we're having an entirely new trilogy that won't be connected, because it's I get after the horrible prequels, you need to show that Star Wars is good again. The Force Awakens did that, but they need to move away now.
Yeah, they need to do something wholly their own. And I mean, we've got Mandalorian right now, which is it's got little bits of of nostalgia, but on the whole, it's its own thing. And I think everybody nobody has really said anything negative about that, so thank God for that.
Yeah, because Baby Yoda will mess you up if you say otherwise. All right, we're cruising on an hour and 45 here.
Yeah,
So,
unfortunately, we're not done yet because Disney Plus premiered in 2019. So we thought it only fair that we add in the actual movies that premiered as well. Thankfully, there's only 3. And strangely enough, they're actually decent. Who'd have thought?
they're really good. I was surprised, especially because
They all scored high on my list.
for the most part, they scored high. There's one that was a little bit low, but I mean, for the 2 that I did not know anything about, I came into, and I'm just like, oh, these are great.
Yeah, so again, there's no real release for them because they all essentially came out at the same time. But so I'll just start with one at random. We'll start with Noelle. I placed that at number 9 on my list, and out of the 3, I rank that the lowest just because I didn't like it as much as I did the first 2.
I put it at number 4.
I put that at number 8 for a specific reason, but I'm leaning more towards Doug's assessment. On a personal assessment, I would probably put it at 4, but for objectively, I think 8 because I don't think it's for everyone. But I loved this movie.
I like this one. Like, I think essentially with all of the Disney Plus stuff, it's like at first they kind of really they make you not really like it. They really don't do much to help the characters, and then just like something later on comes on, or they'll like really take a time out and start developing characters and stuff, and suddenly it's just like you find yourself completely invested. I don't know how they did it, but they definitely made me enjoy this. I especially like how in the end it's like she kind of becomes the new Santa, and on her own terms. Especially like when she goes into the homeless shelter, and the deaf girl actually calls her Santa, and all the other homeless people start calling her Santa too. That just hit me right in the feels. I'm like, shit, I can't be angry at all. This.
The best way I can describe Noelle is it's Elf, but with Santa Claus.
Yeah, that I kind of carried it a bit further than that because I feel like this movie is a hodgepodge of Christmas special. It's Elf mixed with Arthur Christmas with elements of the Santa Claus.
Yeah, it has elements of a lot of different things, and I think when I look at it objectively, I don't think it's going to appeal to everybody.
No.
But that's why I put it 8. But on a personal level, I love it simply because it's hilarious. It has some really great Christmas puns. Some of the things
I thought that was going to be going against it, but then it's like they make it work.
They make these puns work. They add to the lore of things a lot, like really well. It reminds me so much of these old Rankin Bass Christmas specials that I used to watch, and it's so heartwarming. It's more than just funny. It's heartwarming. And when the main character goes down and she sees all these different people, and she goes to Phoenix, where everyone's kind of a dick. It's like going to New York. And she's spreading Christmas cheer to everyone. And she realizes that, like, not everybody likes Christmas because it brings, like, pretty bad memories. But she's just like, you know what? It doesn't matter if it's bad memories. We can still work to help other people. And, it's a heartwarming film. To me, it hit me on a lot of levels, and I was laughing out loud so much during the film. So I on a personal level, I give it a high recommendation, but I recognize it's probably not for everyone, because if you don't like the kind of elf, like the elf humor, if you don't like puns, if you don't like a very peppy character, who acts a little bit childish because he's in the Christmas spirit, you might not enjoy it, but I still think it's worth a watch.
I agree. I definitely think this one's worth a watch. Like I said, it does take some, getting into. Like, the thing is, we had actually watched this as a double feature with Klaus on Netflix, which we thought Klaus was definitely better. But like I said, this one, it's like, and we'd watch Klaus first, so it was like trying to watch this one afterward. It was like seemed like it was going to be tough to beat, but it did win us over. I'm also thinking, I don't know if this was intentional, but I think they might have also been attacking the YouTube algorithm thing, given the plot of the movie is basically like the new Saint Nick goes missing. And while they're searching for him, they put in the cousin as the new Saint Nick, and he's got this whole technology kick. So he decides to, do an algorithm to, determine who's naughty and nice. And as the kicker, he sends like text messages on to the naughty kids to see how they could improve. But it's like, it's one of those things where it's like the Santa Claus from Futurama, in that it invariably grades all kids to be naughty.
You never put the IT guy in charge of being moral. It's you never do that. It never goes well. And he wanted to ship out the presents via drones.
And oh, this is so spoilery, but it also is kind of The Good Place too. I won't say much more, because if you haven't seen The Good Place, you really should. It's so good. But yeah, basically there's kind of this arc of the story is kind of similar to what's going on in it.
In any case, I was very pleasantly surprised with this, especially because the title Noel is, I mean, I guess you can get a Christmassy vibe from it, but I didn't really get anything from it, so I didn't know what I was in for. I was very pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, it ended up being better than I thought it would be, because when I saw some of it and the references to, modern day trends and things, I'm like, oh, this is gonna suck. And this is supposed to be the only original film Disney has put out this year, and this is what we get. But yeah, it at least has heart to it, I can say that much, and it definitely is worthy of being a Christmas special. So yeah.
And an iPad.
And an iPad.
And you get an iPad, and you get an iPad, and you get an iPad.
Wrong.
I'm sorry, that's a bad
iPad.
message to say to kids. Ask Santa for an iPad. He'll get it for you, even though they're fucking expensive. That a quick way to make your kid not believe in Santa Claus.
I just think it's funny because everyone, he wants this, and an iPad.
Oh my god.
And an iPad.
Gee, I wonder who sponsored this movie. But yeah, so on to the next Disney Plus film. Lady and the Tramp, the quote live action remake.
Well, this one actually is live action, because it's only the dogs that are CGI.
Right.
They're actually humans in this.
I put this at number 10.
I put it at number 6.
I put it at number 7. So I think I enjoyed this a little more than you did, Doug. Just because, Lady and the Tramp was never my favorite of the Disney films. There are things that, generally, bother me about it. And I really do think that the new one actually improved on some of those, especially narrative-wise. And, they took out took out some of the more ickier elements of it. But, what do you guys think?
I agree.
Personally, I'm not a big fan of the original Lady and the Tramp. I think the only things that I can remember from it really are Bellanotte and He's a Tramp. I think I'm not really a big fan of the original film, but this doesn't. this has no reason to exist. I'm sorry. It is the same exact film for the most part. They took out a few things, but the cat scene, while less racist, is still not as good. It didn't do much for me. It was decent, but I didn't feel it updated enough. Like, I put it under Aladdin because I feel like Aladdin tried to give more character and more story. Lady and the Tramp, yeah, they expanded a little bit, but it's the same exact story. It didn't feel like it needed to be made.
I mean, obviously it didn't. Again, like many of the other live action stuff that has been remade. But I mean, to me, the thing that like it fixed the most was the narrative. Because think about it, when you think about like how the story of Lady and the Tramp, they're technically two stories in one, and they don't intermingle. Like the first one is about Lady coming to terms with the fact that her humans are having a baby, and they're going to give it more attention than her. And then that ends in the middle. And then the second one picks up about her getting lost and her falling in love with the tramp. And then, that comes to its conclusion. This film at least interwoves those two plots, in a more, in a better, storytelling level, in my opinion. Because, she still has the issue with the baby by the time she's left with Aunt Sarah, by the time she makes her escape. It's because of the baby that she's hesitant to go home. And, the two... And then Tramp, of course, is like saying, oh, you don't need the kids, you don't need the family, they just hold you back, they betray you. And they even give Tramp a backstory. That didn't happen in the first one. So they actually, gave him a little more depth. And there was, to me, it felt like there was more payoff. Like, they actually told off Aunt Sarah, who I absolutely hated from the first one, and she's just as much a bitch in this. And I do like that they show them actually, adopting Tramp properly, as opposed to, look, Lady stopped the dog carriage from getting away. Oh, look, it's that dog that attacked our baby. I guess we'll adopt it. I just felt like in that aspect, it did a lot better job.
Yeah. I'm pretty much of the same mind in that. Yeah, I think this was definitely like Lion King done better. To me, this was probably the best remake, at least this year. So it's like that was, what it's got going for it. I did have some issues with it. Like, I felt, what's his name? Sam Elliott was kind of out of place as Trusty. I felt like, he's usually one of these, kind of drawling monologue characters, but in this they give him like these really short things to say, so it's almost like, what's he even doing there? I mean, it's kind of par for the character, but he just sounds kind of out of place there. And then, what was it? Oh, they moved the setting down to, instead, like, it's normally supposed to be like, sort of, kind of generic Midwest town, but usually it's up north. In this case, they moved it to New Orleans, of all places, and then they have snow. I don't understand that.
Yeah, I mean, any Louisiana natives out there want to tell us otherwise, but for the most part, to my understanding, Louisiana does not get snow. So, yeah, that didn't make sense. But
I just felt like the second half was a bit padded. The first half I thought was fine when she got back, and then the movie kept going, and I think there was like maybe 10 minutes, or at least 10 minutes of padding. That probably could have been cut
it
from
did
the
feel
film.
a little bit longer. But then again, they were weaving together two storylines, both coming to their conclusion. So
I just said to each their own, but I just did not care for this one.
right. Okay, yeah, fair enough. Like I said, I expected this to be a lot worse, and I'm just grateful that it wasn't a lot worse. Again, it's my number 2 out of the 3 films that came out in Disney Plus. But now let's move on to my number 1, Togo. I was surprised by this. I was really fucking surprised, because, like, I kind of knew the backstory of what happened during the whole Balto, Alaskan run for the serum thing, but I was surprised that they made it into a legit film and that they put so much into it. Like, it is impressive, just the effects and everything, the training of the dogs, like, dear God, even William Dafoe was actually really damn good in this. And I'm not saying he's a bad actor, but he's not exactly the most downplayed of actors. Like, he's still crazy in this, but he's the right amount of crazy.
This one made my number 2. Like, number 1 for Disney Plus.
And this was my number 5 for everything, and number 1 for Disney Plus. I thought it was fantastic. I think fantastic acting, the way they showcased everything. Again, the title threw me off because I didn't realize it was a Balto done right. But yeah, it was a really enjoyable film. I think the cinematography was great. The scene where they're crossing the ice floes, fantastic. Only reason I put it a little bit lower is because there was just a lot of good films that I liked that had more emotional impact on me. But this was really nice.
Yeah, the beginning of this film is kind of a slog, to be honest, and I really thought at first I was not going to like it. Like, they were being rather pretentious and everything. But yeah, again, it's one of those where once you really get into it, and once they kind of shut up for a minute and actually, let the movie just do its thing, oh dear God, I'm so invested.
Visually, it's one of the best films I've seen this year. Just the visuals of the mountain and the ice and again, when they're crossing the ice floes and
oh God, that gave me some anxiety. Oh, I'm yelling at Willem Dafoe's character as he's crossing back across the sound. I'm like, why the fuck did you do this? It's okay if you were doing it in the beginning, but now you have the fucking serum. You should not be risking that now. You should go the long way or give it to somebody else.
Goddamn squirrel.
But yeah, this was incredibly well acted. It had some really great visuals, and overall, it's a nice character piece. And yeah, Togo is a good dog.
It's a stubborn ass dog. Like, Jesus.
Reminds me of my Kana, my Kitter, who has the devil in her, I'm sure.
I freaking cried at the end.
Yeah.
I'm like, ugh.
I
Even
was
though
worried...
it was a good ending too. It was like, damn.
I was really worried that Togo was gonna die on the journey, and I'm like, no, don't do that. I can't handle that.
That wouldn't have made sense though, because
Right.
he doesn't die for another like 4 years.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
I thought it was like at the very tail end he was gonna die or something. But I'm glad he didn't, because I like Togo. Like, he's a little bastard, but he can run. So that was my number 3, by the way, in terms of the whole list. Number 1 Disney Plus movie, number 3 on my whole list. So.
With that being said, we have been talking for about 2 hours now, and granted, some of it is probably being edited out as we speak, but this is our top lists of the Disney films this year. Personally, I think this was a pretty good year. Granted, there was some bad stuff, but I got some stuff that I really enjoyed and stuff that I enjoyed seeing multiple times. So,
Yeah.
I don't know. I had fun this year.
Yeah, I'm glad you enjoyed it. I just felt like, compared to past years, there were some films that I like, a lot of films that I really, really enjoyed, and like a few that I hated, whereas opposed there was like a lot that I hated and a few that I enjoyed. With this one, it's been mostly in the middle, because like every single film that came out this year, with the exception of Noelle, has been like, either a remake or a sequel. So, or in Togo's case, like a remake of a documentary or something. But yeah, like...
The true story.
But yeah, it's because of that. it feels hollow because it's like, where's the original stuff? You know, I'm glad some of these are getting continuations or reboots, but, you know, I'd like to see something original too, like to show that, you know, you guys still know what you're doing, that you can still bring new ideas to the table. So it just felt like it was a little lackluster this year. But
Yeah, I'm with you on that one.
But real quick, before we end this, I just wanted to address what we may potentially be looking at in the upcoming years. I don't have the full official list here, but in terms of what we can expect, a couple of titles. There's we have 2 Pixar films. There's Onward, you know, the Bright mixed with Full Metal Alchemist animated film that's coming up. We have Soul. There's the live-action Mulan. We got Artemis Fowl, which was supposed to come out this year and got pushed back. There's Jungle Cruise with The Rock and Mary Poppins. And there's the one and only Ivan, and their newest animated one, Raya and the Last Dragon. Obviously, a lot of these don't have a lot of trailers yet, so we can't exactly comment on them, per se. But those are some of the things that are coming out. And, of course, with Marvel, there's Black Widow. And I think they're doing, was it the Eternals, was it? That might be coming out, theoretically. So, no Star Wars. I think we're done with Star Wars for a bit, aside from, you know, Mandalorian Part 2. But, yeah, that's what we have to look forward to. So, hopefully some of this is original. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see.
All I know is that the Mulan trailer gives me chills, and it looks like a freaking Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon movie. I want it.
Yeah, I hope it lives up to it, because I love Mulan. It's one of my favorite films. Theoretically, they shouldn't be able to fuck it up, but again, we'll wait and see. As long as they don't put Mushu in there.
Yeah. Will it bring honor to us all, or will it bring dishonor on you, dishonor on your family, dishonor on your cow? We can only wait and see.
With that being said, I am Zenith, Warrior Princess.
I'm Kat Macberrie.
I'm Doug Macberrie.
And this is Chewbacca.
Chewbacca survived.
That makes sense.
Chewbacca managed to survive the trilogy. You should all be grateful.
If Chewbacca survives, you must acquit.
May the Force be with you all.
We will see you in the future for more Disney debate. There's a lot of stuff that we're going to be discussing in the future after I move and after I settle down and whatnot. But with that being said, have a good one, everyone. And again, just remember, if Chewbacca is 8 feet tall and live with Wookiees at 2 feet tall, does not make sense. You gotta quit.
We love you 3000. Thanks for listening to us, guys. Here's to another great year.
Hey, this is Megami33. Thank you for watching Zenith Will Review. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more awesome videos. If you like what you see, check out the Patreon page at patreon.com/Zenith Will Review.